MacLean. It's great and a pleasure to have you here in Mülheim.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
I wonder when you heard first about the resurrection of Port Ellen and Brora, what were your first thoughts?
Well, the first time I heard was the first time that everybody heard last Monday. And the reaction was one of shock and joy, because the line of Diageo had always been, no, never. Port Ellen will never be reopened. Brora will never be reopened. And the whiskey industry gossip goes around, and we had nobody had an inkling, you know. And that night, Monday night, I was up at the Keepers of the Quake banquet, and I was talking to Dr. Morgan, who was one of the people who did know. And I said, "My God, Nick, how on earth did you manage to keep the thing so tight?" He said, "Well, there were very, very few people who knew about this, and we managed to get the permission to the support of the top management."
Do you think that Nick was behind that?
I wouldn't be at all surprised. I wouldn't be at all surprised. But even the employees of the company, they didn't know until this burst of information, which then went out, and of course it was copied in every blog in the world, every newsletter in the world. So it was a real shock. And then the following day, the Ian MacLean and Company planning to. Now, we had heard a little bit about this, a rumor that this was going through, but I think that it may well have been that Diageo made an agreement with Lenny Russell, with Ian MacLean and Company, to hold back the public until they had something else to say, but they wouldn't have said what it was. But anyway, in answer to your question, I think this is fantastic news, because it shows great confidence in the future of these iconic whiskies, and therefore great confidence in the future of Scotch malt whisky. And it also, the second thing, that it means that that Diageo in particular, the leading company, listens to consumers, because and I've been with Nick, and when loyal consumers say, why not, when are you going to reopen? Never, Port Ellen in particular, and Brora, but they listen to the consumers, and they've made a decision. They're going to spend £35 million on the two, and limited production, trying to replicate, and this is a very interesting aspect, because they're determined to try and replicate the make made in these places, you know, before they were closed in 1983. That'll be difficult. That'll be difficult.
What would it take to recreate them? I mean, we know that Brora is basically ready to be reopened.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the state of the. A lot of the equipment, not all the equipment, but a lot of the equipment is there. Yeah. One of the things that I would want to know, and I hope that they will, for example, reinstate worm tubs. Now, I don't know whether Brora in particular, whether they had changed to shell and tube condensers before they closed it in '83, but certainly the classic Broras would have been made with worm tubs. Port Ellen, I imagine, had, and I don't know for certain, had worm tubs right until the end, but I don't know for certain. I know that the Ian MacLean Company they're going to try and replicate with worm tubs Rosebank, because worm tubs play the condensing mechanism plays a very important part in the overall flavour profile of the spirit. It makes for a heavier spirit. It makes for a more traditional spirit, and so I think it would be desirable to do that. They've got all the patterns of the stills, so they can replicate the stills. Although, in truth, the size of the stills are quite important, but it's really how you run them. You know, how you charge them, how slowly you distill, all this to try and replicate the spirit. So it's going to be a real challenge from a mechanical point of view to replicate, but it will be a noble effort whatever happens. And
you are confident that they will not fail, but they will prevail with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, undoubtedly, and both companies I have complete confidence in, and they're not short of money. They're determined to make a good new make spirit. Wood, well, they're both very good on their wood. An awful lot more is known about wood now than was in 83. And so in years to come, we can expect, but in years to come, will the demand still be there in 10, 15, 5 years' time? You know, hopefully it will. But there's been this huge increase in capacity, expanding existing distilleries, building new distilleries. Some of them very big, like Rosile, Inchdowney. Some of them quite small. But this huge increase in capacity, all based upon the expected or hoped for demand for Scotch malt, and in many cases as single malt whiskey. I mean, the big ones like Rosile and Inchdowney, they're there for blending purposes. But the you know, it all shows confidence in the expected, the hoped for demand in years to come, and that is a joy to us all who work in the industry, because it'll keep me in a job until. Hopefully until I retire, or fall over, because I'm never going to retire.
Charles, always a pleasure to listen to your expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for interviewing me.